All right, another UFL episode. No, it's been a little bit, but I'm back at it with the new Louisville Kings shirt. The shirts came in finally. Very excited about getting all those shirts, and I might end up just wearing them every time I talk about a team. I don't know, but this is really cool. Love the t-shirt. Well, job well done, UFL. So I figured since wearing the Louisville Kings shirt, might as well talk about the Louisville Kings and what's going on. Over the last couple days, there seems to be some activity going on with Louisville and with the Kings. I wanted to talk about the interview that just happened the other day with Steve Macy, who is the VP of Business Operations for the Louisville Kings. So um, he was previously with the Memphis Showboat, and it looks like now he is running the operations for Louisville, which I feel like, first of all, before we get into the interview, we got to talk about that itself because, you know, maybe reading too much into it, but a lot of us have been talking about, of the old UFL teams between, the Showboats and the Brahmas and the Panthers. Where are their rosters and coaching staffs and all that? Where are they going to be located within the three new UFL teams? And I thought it was interesting that we have the former Showboats VP of Business Operations now running the Louisville Kings. Is that a sign that the Showboats roster and coaching staff going to go into it? I don't know. I mean, look, guys, it's been a slow off season. I know there was a lot of excitement with the new teams, but over the last couple of weeks, it's been kind of quiet. So we got to speculate about something. I got to make content about something. So it's just interesting. I'm not saying that the Showboats are officially moving to Louisville, but if you are a Kings fan, I'm sorry for you if that ends up being the case because you are inheriting a really crappy team. But hopefully it will change with maybe a new coaching staff, new head coach, new staff. Maybe they come in and bring in their own players. Who knows? But um, for the sake of the Louisville Kings, I kind of hope they don't inherit the Memphis Showboats team because, yeah, they were pretty bad. So let's get into the interview that he did. Macy did. He had joined 840 WHAS radio, where he had talked about pretty much all things Louisville Kings. So a lot of stuff that the Kings have been kind of posting on social media. They're looking for a new mascot, um, which will be kind of interesting to see, how they go about it. It seems like a lot of the teams, like I know the Gamblers are looking for a new mascot, but they already had a mascot, so it's like, are you not going to stick with the original one? That it's kind of interesting. So I think it's just kind of the first step in kind of rebranding the teams and the franchises and trying to get their footing into the local markets. So I'm going to read off of the um article that James Larson wrote for Pro Football Newsroom. Shout out to Larson for always putting up the great work. He wanted to read one of the quotes that Macy had talked about in the interview, where he talks about Mike Rapoli and what he's done. So here's the quote from Macy. I think that's one of the nice things about Mike Rapoli coming in is he asked us to re-examine everything, what we were doing. So three franchises went away, including the one I was running in Memphis. It was Memphis, San Antonio, Detroit. All of them have 60,000 seat plus stadiums that had 10 to 15,000 people, and they look terrible. And that's kind of been the mindset of the league. Rapoli wants to go to soccer stadiums, go to smaller stadiums that have, 15, 20, 25,000, people seats. So that's kind of what made Louisville one of the more attractive places to relocate is they're in a much smaller stadium now that I think is going to look a lot better. And honestly, Louisville is just a better location. Memphis was clearly not bought into the UFL to the point where they literally had a game where they had over 2,000 fans. Or I guess I should say 2,000 tickets sold. The amount of fans there, probably a couple hundred at best, but it looked terrible on television. So that's been kind of where the mindset's at. And that's why Louisville's kind of a good location. They haven't been burned as much by spring football and, they haven't had the kind of pedigree and history that Memphis has had with not having a lot of success with spring football over the last few years. So kind of a refresh start to with a new city, a new team. So really interesting. But one part that was interesting that was brought up was um, they're looking at coaches. So obviously, if Macy's going to end up like if the Memphis Showboats indeed end up going to Louisville, well, they need a new head coach because obviously Ken Wisnow's not there anymore, and Turner was the interim coach, so they need all new coaching staff. So they may have to kind of restart from scratch in terms of the coaching staff. They'll have a roster in place, but we can all assume that whoever's taking over that roster is going to have to demolish it and start over from scratch. So Macy had made an interesting comment where he said, "I don't know who is it going to be yet. I had heard a name, but it didn't work out because he made an NFL roster." So they were looking at somebody who ended up going to the NFL and is on the NFL roster to potentially be the coach. So that's kind of interesting. Um, I know Larson had speculated, maybe he was talking about Teddy Bridgewater, which that actually probably makes the most sense. I mean, being former Louisville Cardinals quarterback, um, he's already been coaching, coach at the high school level. That would be a massive jump, though, to go from high school to the pros like that. I know, like some people kind of view the UFL as kind of the in between for like college and the NFL, but that's still a massive jump for somebody like Bridgewater. But honestly, makes a ton of sense if that was the case, if they were looking at Bridgewater. And I'm sure, that's kind of one of the things that the UFL is trying to focus a little bit more on is trying to find local, they talked about, bringing in local talent and having them play in the UFL and kind of have a regional thing going on so that you got somebody like Columbus who, the Aviators are going to bring in talent from like Ohio State or like the Ohio Bobcats so that they can, bring in recognizable names and keep them within, the, the team and the location. So, it does make sense that if they're looking at a head coach, they want to bring in somebody who probably was a player or a former coach at Louisville with the Cardinals. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they look at trying to connect Louisville with like Lexington, with like the Kentucky Wildcats, and trying to bring someone from there. But it definitely looks like they're trying to bring in a name that people within the city of Louisville or within the state of Kentucky would know very well and trying to bring him in. So that will be fascinating. That's kind of a fascinating kind of tell of what the mindset is of the UFL and how they're going about with their search. I know Rapoli kind of brought it up a few weeks ago that um, they're still going through the process of finding coaches, and I think they might be a little ways off before we get official announcement. But my assumption would be with November coming up pretty soon, you know, could that be the month where we the UFL starts dropping some announcements there? So that might be something to watch out for. And there were other things in the interview they talked about, premium seating and the ticket sales. I think that's been kind of it. There was a lot of confusion with like I guess there was an email that went out that shouldn't have gone out about ticket sale, season tickets being on sale and stuff like that. But just to clarify, tickets are not on sale right now. I think you could put in deposits for 4 season tickets, but I don't think they're being sold yet. But from what Macy said, it looks like the ticket prices themselves are expected to be on the lower end of the UFL and how they're pricing out, which is a good thing. I mean, to me personally, I've heard a lot of fans complain about how expensive the tickets are. I know especially like Birmingham has kind of talked, a lot of the fans that kind of talk about the attendance issues last year talked about, paying $25 per ticket is really expensive for people in Louisville, which I mean, ultimately, when you compare it to the NFL, it's like way cheaper at $25. So I guess for me personally, I have never had a complaint about how the UFL is priced their tickets. I think 20 to $25 is a fair price. I think if you do anything lower than that, I don't see how the UFL is going to make money. Like like you got to find that balance between let's make it affordable for families to come out, but also we got a business and we got to make money, and we're not here to give tickets out for free like the USFL used to do back in 2022 just to bring fans in. Like we can't do that either. We can't make it $5-10. Like you gotta up the price a little bit. Like this is a product that's on national television. You don't want to sell the league short of what it is. You don't want to dumb it down to like, oh, it's just a minor league. Like, no, like there is some value to this league, and you don't want to price, price yourself so low. So I've never personally had a problem with the ticket prices. I think 20 to 25 bucks is fair. And I assume that's kind of probably where the area is going to be for not only Louisville, but for the rest of the UFL tickets. Looks like seating assignments for season ticket deposit holders are expected to be released in early November. And then he also made a claim that Louisville has crushed it in deposits compared to what Columbus and Orlando is doing. Not surprised by that at all. My assumption is Orlando is probably doing the worst of the three. That's a city that's just been burned tremendously by spring football time and time again. I'm still very skeptical about if Orlando's going to work. I'm a little bit nervous about it. I think they have a better stadium. They have a better location for what they were compared to like Camping World back in 2023. But I'm still a little bit skeptical about if Orlando's going to work because man, the summers are going to kind of suck if for people coming out. And that was like a big complaint in like Birmingham last year was that the humidity and the heat was and the with the inconsistent weather, like that was always a problem. Like I feel like it's gonna be the same thing in Florida. Florida is always kind of crazy with its weather and its humidity. Like, is that gonna end up being a problem for people going out? So I'm still a little bit skeptical about Orlando, but like Columbus and Louisville, would suspect is going to do really well. And it doesn't surprise me that Louisville is killing it in the deposits. That's a city that I feel like that's why like when you're talking about relocating rosters and stuff like that, like I feel like Louisville might be the like either Louisville or Columbus would be the ones that I would give the better rosters to because I just feel like they're going to do better in their markets, versus Orlando. I hate to say it, I would probably put the Showboats roster on Orlando's, but with Macy coming from the Showboats to the Kings, it definitely feels like the Showboats that roster could be heading to Louisville, which would kind of suck for that city, but my hope is that, whoever the new coach comes in, they just kind of scrap the roster and just start up from scratch. I know like Rapoli's talked about getting rosters younger. That would be something that Louisville could take advantage of and try to find young players coming out of college or maybe been in the pros for at least a year, maybe in and out of practice squads. Like find some new talent in there because that roster desperately needs a makeover. So just some interesting things. Hopefully, we'll get some more updates here in the next few weeks. I know the league, I will say, done a tremendous job of posting on social media. Again, with UFL players doing well in the NFL. I know the league just posted about 150 days away from the season starting. So there's a lot of activity going on social media. So I will say major kudos to the UFL for doing that because it's kind of a slower time for it. As we kind of wait to hear like who the coaches are going to be, see if there's any more roster changes that are going to happen. I know there's been some small signings here and there, like Travis Feeney re-signing with the St. Louis Battlehawks. So I know there's been little inquiries here and there. Chris Odom with the Renegades. So a lot of little stuff coming in, but hopefully we can get some massive news here in the next few weeks to kind of react to and talk to and see, see what direction the league takes for 2026. Well, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think about this Louisville situation, how you think they're doing on the marketing side. Do you think, what do you think about the possibility of the Showboats taking over Louisville? I would hope for that city it doesn't happen, but someone's going to have to take them over. So how do you think, Louisville is going to handle, that whole spiel? So let me know your thoughts. I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me, and I will see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.